Hello, I am Koko,
I'm Sam.
and this is Your Fave Is, a podcast that where we talk about headcanons for your favorite characters. Today this is the first episode. Today we are talking about Bella Swan and how she is extremely autistic coded. Let us know what you think or any headcanons you have for Twilight, or anything else or any characters you want us to do. So yeah, we should probably start off. Sam knows way more about Twilight than me, because I have only read about 9 pages, and watched 1.5 movies.
And I got slightly obsessed with it when I was 12, so here we go.
Somehow I never knew about that. So to start off, Bella, many autistic traits, like for example, her social struggles. Bella struggles with connecting to people and relating to neurotypical people, which is pretty much everybody in Forks. She states this in the book, less obvious in the movie, but she does state it in the book.
And obviously, the first people that she actually relates to are a group of 100-year-old vampires instead of her friends that are her age, which doesn't really make sense.
She's not a very good friend.
No, she's a pretty terrible friend. But that's just because she doesn't spend time with her friends ever. If she doesn't relate to them, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, her father, who she was not raised by, acts the same sort of way. And since it's can be a genetic thing, this could explain that.
Autism can be a genetic disability, so it would make a lot of sense that the autistic traits Bella has, she shares with her father. And we know it's not he was raising her to be that way thing, because she was not raised by her father. She was raised by her mum in Phoenix.
And her mum is actually completely different and very, very outgoing and, friendly, I guess.
Yeah. So if Bella was, raised by her dad, it would make more sense. But
Indeed.
It's not like that. Yeah. She also has alexithymia, symptoms of. It's obviously not canon. None of this is really canon.
That's why it's a headcanon.
We know she wasn't written to be autistic. But, oh well, I'm autistic, and I project myself onto every character I see. So, yeah. Pretty much alexithymia is, and I probably pronounced that wrong, alexithymia is trouble with identifying and expressing emotions. A lot of autistic people have it. Probably ADHD as well. Definitely autism. In the book, she also states that both her and her dad struggle with communicating and expressing their emotions out loud. And verbal communication can be really challenging for autistic people, which is why it would make sense for her to be autistic.
And again, this isn't a nurture sort of thing because she wasn't raised by her dad.
Yeah. So yeah. That's... Wow, we are 2 points in and it's been 3 minutes. How long has it been? Hold on. Yep, it has been... Oh my god! Almost exactly 4 minutes.
We can edit this out.
I'm not editing this. This
is pure and unfiltered.
Pure unfiltered podcast. This is going to be a lot shorter than I thought it would be. Turns out I talk very quickly. Sorry for getting sidetracked there. Hyperfixation. Just brief rundown. Hyperfixation is when a neurodivergent person, typically ADHD or autistic, gets intensely fixated on one topic, or multiple topics, but they just get so intensely fixated, and everything revolves around that. Often in AFAB autistic people, this can be their friends. They get hyperfixated on people. For me, it was Brendan Urie in grade 7. I was so obsessed with Panic at the Disco.
Wait, who's Brendan Urie?
Brendan Urie is the lead singer of Panic at the Disco.
Okay.
it was a very unhealthy obsession, and I now recognize that he is not a good person. But oh well. Grade 7 me did not know that. Because I was hyperfixating, and also he hadn't been called out on anything yet at that point in time. But sorry for getting sidetracked again. I am very good at that.
That's the point.
Yeah. Bella gets hyperfixated on Edward, very much so.
And vampires.
And vampires,
Just
and
generally.
The Quillette legends.
Yeah.
Now, when I was talking about this with my mum and Sam, Mum said that's just because Edward is a vampire. And, like, understandably so. You'd be, like, pretty invested if it turned out your friend was a vampire. But she was hyperfixated on him before she knew that.
And after she found out that her other friend, who she is closer...
Clother?
Sorry.
Yes.
Clother. Who she's closer with, is a literal werewolf who can turn into a wolf, like, all the time. She does not seem to care in the slightest.
She does not care at all.
I mean, she's annoyed about it a bit. But if it was just a, supernatural thing, she would also be interested in the whole werewolf thing. And she's not at all. She's very hyperfixated on the vampires and Edward in particular.
Yeah. Super hyperfixated on Edward. Like, a lot. Yeah.
And rolling it back to what you were saying earlier about Brandon Urie and a toxic sort of relationship, Edward and Bella have, what many would consider a not wonderful relationship.
Oh yeah, super toxic.
And how she doesn't see any of the red flags because she is so...
She's so intensely hyperfixated that she ignores all of the red flags. Though you can ignore red flags in regular situations too.
Of course.
I have done that personally. I'm sure Sam has it too, and if you're listening, you probably have as well. Yes, I'm calling everyone out now. But yeah.
Major call out, guys.
Okay, Edward's mind reading powers. This is based off the first movie, because I have not cared to look into anything more than that. And the graphic novel, because I've read that too.
Is a graphic novel?
There is a graphic novel. It was in my school's library. And I was like, I couldn't find the regular book, so I was like, yes, graphic novel. Yeah. Edward's mind reading powers don't work on Bella.
And it's never explained until the final book / and movie, where it's kind of pulled out of nowhere that she's a shield, which is this super duper rare magical ability that she's got that stops people from being able to read her mind.
Yeah, let's just ignore that then. Edward's mind reading powers don't work on her. In the graphic novel, he literally says, because your brain works differently. If that's not autistic, then I don't know what is. It's pretty autistic coded. Her mind just works differently, which is kind of, the entire point of autism. So it would make sense that that's why his mind reading powers don't work on her, because her brain's wired differently. Now, my last point, coordination and proprioception. Coordination and proprioception, what are they? Well, you probably know what coordination is. Proprioception, though, is knowing where your body is in relation to other stuff and in space. So, I personally have none of that. I bump into things all the time, knock stuff over. I am terrible with proprioception and coordination. That is because I'm autistic. It is a huge symptom of autism. And a huge part of Bella's character is that she has none of that. She's clumsy and walks into things and trips over things and knocks stuff over. And yeah, pretty uncoordinated.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments on this, Sam?
I mean, yeah, just like as I've read further into it, she continues to stay extremely clumsy, even as she gets older and becomes more like, finishes puberty and stuff, which is usually when you become less clumsy. She continues to stay just as clumsy until she gets turned into a vampire, but, vampire, so.
Yeah. Vampire super coordination. Whoa. Supernatural coordination.
But even then, actually, that she says, like, out loud in the books that she, like, even once she's a vampire, that she's scared that she's going to run into stuff because she's so used to not having any sort of coordination.
Which that was my final point about how Bella Swan is definitely autistic, at the least autistic coded. There are a lot of things on the internet that people have posted about how Bella Swan is autistic coded, so if you want to read any of those, I highly recommend looking it up. That brings us to the end of this. I hope you've enjoyed this 10 minutes of us rambling. Have a good day, everybody. And this has been Your Fave Is. Thank you for listening.
Toodles!